Good afternoon, everyone, or indeed good morning, good evening, whenever you're watching this, because the chances are that you may not join us live. You might actually be here on the hashtag replay. So let us know that. Hi there. My name is Helena Holrick, and we have the lovely Kelly
Me?
Tyler
Oh,
with us. Yes, you.
I mean,
Yes,
not so you
you.
can introduce Helen then, because normally, yes,
No,
I'm
no.
Helen.
And Kelly, and we have the lovely Helen Packham with us, but we'll let her introduce herself in a second. We are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to really build a portfolio business that works on your terms. And in order to actually do that, we like to bring in some incredible and amazing people who have expert knowledge. And today is going to be a corker. I reckon this conversation is going to take us in all sorts of places. So we're talking about how to land and deliver a TED Talk. But before we do that, we obviously want to know, as you are coming in, we want to know, what is the buzz in your business? So, in terms of what the buzz is in your business, what's exciting, what's intriguing, what's happening, what have you done, what have you got coming up? Let us know in the comments if you've got an event, if you've been nominated for something. There's a whole bunch of awards that are going on at the moment. So, what have you got your sights set on in this way? We are quite excited, aren't we, Kelly?
Well, the point is, I'm excited about stationery on a normal day, but when it's
Yes.
our own stationery, I'm even more excited.
Yeah, we spent some time with the wonderful Sophie Jury. For those of you who caught the very last interview of 2020, we actually spoke to Sophie Jury, who helps people, speakers, authors, coaches, to really develop collateral for themselves. And we are creating our journal, our yeah, we are very excited about this. Both stationary freaks and everything else. Yeah, Judith, exactly. Stationary. Ooh, that's all I can say. But in the meanwhile, so I'm going to hand it over to Helen and say, what's the buzz in your business?
Oh, there's lots going on at the moment. I'm doing quite a few speaker intensives with clients, helping them to formulate keynotes. And I've been doing some quite exciting ones recently. The stories that people have just always fascinate me, and how they shape that into what they're delivering. And I'm doing quite a lot of corporate stuff, helping corporate leaders communicate more effectively using virtual communication, making more of an impact with it. That's all really juicy, exciting stuff. So yeah, it's all going on.
Oh,
All
absolutely
whilst
love it.
managing childcare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all
We
while
we
struggling with childcare.
We've been having quite a few conversations with people around all of that stuff. So, for those of you who have just joined us, I see that several of you are now here live. Do tell us the buzz in your business. We will pick it up as we go. But I'm going to kick us off just because I know that we're going to be talking for quite some time. So for those of you that haven't met Helen before, let's start with the basics. And Helen, tell us a little bit about what you do. You've already hinted at it, but the variety of experiences that you've had with TED, and specifically why we've invited you to come and do this.
Yeah, so I guess, the path that led me here wasn't a planned path. It's something that kind of evolved. I think that happens with a lot of people. My background is in corporate leadership development, so I spent many years training and coaching leaders on how to be more effective leaders. And a big part of that was how they communicated themselves to people, how they manage conflict, team dynamics, presentations, talks, all of those sorts of things. And naturally, over the years, I started picking up tools, and one tool that was amazing that I realized, whether you're an introvert, you're the shyest person in the world, or the most confident, storytelling would help you really communicate what you wanted to communicate in a really interesting way. So people came to me for that more and more and more. Then I had a child and I lost the plot. Completely lost the plot. I took a year off. I came back, massive imposter syndrome. Couldn't believe that I was sitting in boardrooms with men, pretty much men that were a lot older than me, and I felt like a fraud. So I actually ran away from that career, and I hid for pretty much 4 years, developed an anxiety disorder, and vowed to myself I would never, ever stand up in front of a room full of people again. That was my vow. It made me physically sick. But things happen, things change. There was a bit of a pit moment. I won't go into it, but the light was shone, and I thought, I can't carry on like this. I've got stuff inside me. So I went on a journey, a big personal development journey. And one of the things on the journey was to put a vision board together. I was like, what's the biggest
thing with that?
Funnily enough, somebody close in this room might actually be running one of those on Sunday.
Awesome. I love a vision board. Anyway, I put that together, and I thought, what's the biggest way that I can test myself, that I do have what it takes to stand up in front of a room full of people? I know, I'll do a TED talk. So I put TED in the middle of the vision board, and 8 months later, I'm standing on the stage at the Brighton Dome in front of 1,500 people. The first time I'd stood up in front of a room full of people in 4 years with 24 hours notice.
Yeah, that's the crazy bit, isn't it? Just tell them a little bit about that story, because the people that are, I'm not prepared enough or procrastinate, just tell them how that turned out.
Yeah, so 3 months before the event, I saw that it was happening at the Brighton Dome. I got in touch. I jumped through all the hoops to get in touch with the organisers. I pitched my idea, and they said, no, sorry, we're full because it's 3 months to the event. I said, okay. And then 48 hours before the event, I get a call saying someone's dropped out. We like your idea, but we're going to put it to a committee vote. We'll be in touch. 24 hours later, I still hadn't heard from them. And then I had to ring them. And I said, oh, yeah, you're in. Come down for sound check. You're on tomorrow. So I had to literally pull it out of my bottom. But
and your TED Talk is, I've put your link to your website in there. Your TED Talk is in there. But what people need to be aware of is that is not you at your absolute best either, is it?
No.
You're a trainer when you do all this stuff, but it shows what's possible and what impact, even you at your, not worst, but not as you're well prepared, you can still have a massive impact using TED, right?
Yeah, I was so nervous. I was absolutely drowning in fear. The first time I'd stood up. And that's why after that, so many people sort of contacted me saying, you were really real. It was a normal subject matter, but that's what made you very relatable. How did you do it in 24 hours? And that's when I started to niche into speaking and helping people with speaking and presentations, and put on a speaker program, and then it went from there. So
amazing.
That was a really pivotal moment, but it really does go to show that you do not have to be an expert speaker to deliver a TEDx talk.
And we'll come on to the distinctions between that in a while. I just want to share Judith's buzz, which is, I tagged her earlier in this because I did actually know a little bit of this, but it's really good. The buzz in her business is she applied for TED Global. Sort of the deadline was the 21st. So she applied for TED Global, and she's got the May Sound Healing Retreat will be in the UK, not Ireland. So, the way that we're all being impacted. And she's got 2 people signed up for the one-to-one work after her 2-day vocal confidence workshop. So she's buzzing.
Nice.
She's on fire. Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. And I have popped the link in case anybody does actually want it. If you are free on Sunday, it is the best way to spend a Sunday at the moment. I can definitely vouch for that. Yeah.
So just to end that little bit of a journey with your thing with TED, because obviously you're a speaker trainer, you've had that experience personally, you've really grown from that experience, even though it was 24 hours notice. What do you do with TED now? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously that developed. So I started getting more people come to me to help them with TED Talks and help them with shaping their ideas and giving those talks. And then I think it was end of 2018, I got approached by a fantastic guy who was putting on a brand new event in Birmingham. And he wanted me to come on the team to be the curator. Of course, I said, yes, 100%, absolutely. And we started that process. It was meant to happen in October last year, but we really want it to be a live event. So we're pushing it, hopefully, fingers crossed, to August this year. So I've now gone through the process of really working closely with TED, understanding everything that is involved in putting on a TEDx event, the curation process, the application process. I've created that myself and put all the applicants through it. So now I have a real understanding of what that actually looks like, and it's been amazing to be part of that process.
That's amazing.
That's why we invited you, right? So everyone that's listening, what Helen's got the experience of is the first-hand experience of being a TEDx speaker. Then she's got the experience of being a speaker trainer to help you with the storytelling and the presenting tips, basically, to deliver on stage. and she's got the understanding of being a curator. So she understands what needs to be in the application form. She understands, the competition. She understands the ethics of TED. So this is the place to ask your questions, is what I'm saying. From whatever.
For sure. And please do, if you're watching this as a replay, don't think you can't ask the questions. Just tag Helen, tag us, and make sure that you, even if it's 6 weeks down the line and you still want to do that, just please do. Don't feel like you can't ask your questions.
So we, Helen, being part of the Connection Hub, I'll put the link in there for those that aren't a part of our Speaker Author Facebook group, but in that network that there are people that we would class as experts, right? Industry experts, topic experts. So could you just elaborate for people that might not have even thought about this, how does a TEDx or TED Talk build people's credibility and impact? How can they use it if they are an expert in their field?
The first thing to think about is when we think about the types of messaging that you might be delivering, if you're an expert, I see it as 3 different levels of message that you might be delivering. So we have a society level message, which is something that anybody could understand. They don't need to have a particular relation to the subject matter of what you're talking about. It's something that anybody can understand. Then you've got your community level messages where you're talking to a group of people, might be an industry specific event or talk, and you've got a message to that group of people. Then you've got your lower level message where you're talking direct to the ideal client. This is obviously great for content marketing, Facebook Lives, social media type of things. So TED is very much society level messaging. So, if you were a Facebook ads expert, for example, you wouldn't be going in talking about algorithms on a TED Talk. You would be talking about something that's big chunk, that's a societal issue, that's something that's really relevant in the world right now that people need to hear, that they would benefit from, and that is an idea worth spreading. That is obviously the strapline of TED. And what an idea worth spreading actually is something that's going to disturb thinking. It's going to challenge thinking. It's going to be something that might be a fresh perspective or a twist on something traditional. It might be a new invention. It could be a personal story. It could be something creative, some new science, some new research. It could be absolutely anything, but it's got to be an idea worth spreading.
So that level very much fits for the thought leaders, the change agents of the world, right? Because that's their platform to actually, demystify, bust ideas, break thought patterns, all those types of things, right? As you said, it's not topic specific trainings. It's more about, I've never thought of it that way before.
It's prodding thinking, isn't it? It's like dropping something in that people go, hang on a minute, that's a whole new way of looking at something, like almost in a paradigm shift kind of way.
Totally, but it doesn't have to be radical. I'm a very good example of my talk is about motherhood, right? How many people can relate to that, and that's the point of it. My message though was that a lot of people feel that confidence is something that you can lose or gain. That's a sort of a well thought belief in society, but my talk was about something that it is not something that you lose or gain. It is a constant resource inside you, and it just needs to be tapped. And my story and what I spoke about was focused around that message. So that's not radical, but it was able to shift thinking in a lot of people.
So what's great about that is Judith literally just asked, what was your talk idea?
Yeah.
So the synergy
Judith,
is in there.
You can go to Helen's website. Let me put the link again in. You can watch the TED Talk on Helen's website directly. I'll just put that in again for you now. But 100%. So you've got to, it's looking at what the purpose of the talk that you're giving, who it impacts, what it impacts. Why are people going to want to listen to this, right? So because a TED stage is a really different stage to a traditional speaking platform, right? Because they've got really, talk about what they look for. Let's have a look at what would they look for in that talk as a curator.
So that's putting the curator hat on, every event has a theme. So there will always be a theme to which you curate, and I look at it like a spiral in terms of how I curate an event. So you might find one speaker that's very aligned with that theme, And then you find other speakers that all have different angles on that theme and are coming in at different angles. So a personal story angle around the theme is going to be something I look for. Someone who has been through the trenches of their situation, who has walked the walk and has something inspiring to say as a result of it. Then you might have someone who, you know, has done some research in a particular area, and they have something to say about that research. You might have someone who has done something in the community that is amazing, that's really helped people, and they have something to say about that that's aligned with the theme. There's technology, there's science, there's nature, there's art, design, all of those personal journeys, all of those sorts of topics we're looking for around a central theme. So when someone applies to the event, I'm not just looking at that one talk. I'm looking at the spiral of talks and how they would complement each other.
Nice.
But specifically, the idea wouldn't be generic. So it wouldn't be something, confidence isn't something you lose or gain. It's always inside you. That could be seen as quite generic. But what I did there was I wrapped my story around it, which made it unique in the fact that was my story and this is what I had to do.
No,
so you look at through that lens, isn't it? You look at a broad spectrum through a specific lens, which is really good.
Yeah.
And clarify something.
Go on.
Oh, sorry.
You
Can you clarify something to me, Helen? Because when I was talking to some other TED experts as well, one of the things that I think a lot of people forget specifically about TEDx is TEDx is actually based around community and that local community. So really, what I think when I've been speaking to curators, they're wanting people to be an active member in that community before they even get on stage and actually use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And actually, before you tackle that one, why don't we just do this, just in case people are fairly new to it? I think in our world, most people do know what a TED Talk is, et cetera, but maybe let's just go back a step and actually go, so what's the difference between TED and TEDx stages? Because, there's a difference in the application to speak and everything else. So let's just actually debunk that and then go back to what Kelly just asked.
Sure. So TED is the main event. They happen annually. In different parts of the world. It's a very prestigious event. It's around £10,000 for a ticket. And TED events have the big, not necessarily big names, that people are really breaking ground in the different facets around technology, entertainment, design, which is what TED stands for. And so, your Elon Musks and your Richard Bransons. And of course, I know Brené Brown started with TEDx and she's moved to TED, but the people that are really breaking ground in research, in thinking, in things like that, 10 grand a ticket. Woo! Yeah. Then you have TEDx. Now, TEDx's are independently organized TED events. You have to have a license from TED to be able to run the event, and it has to adhere to the criteria that is central to TED. So when we got our license, we got access to the whole library from TED of all of the resources. Amazing, juicy resources.
Oh my God, they're so good. They're so good, aren't they? It's like I remember getting to my hands on that as well with the event that I was helping to organize, and it's just like, oh my word, these people know their stuff.
Yes, and you can learn from other events, but TEDx specifically it's for the people, by the people. It's a completely voluntary run event. It's an accessible price, so anybody can join. It's around £40 for a ticket to join a TEDx event, and it is placed within communities. So you can only get a license if it's for a particular community within an area or within a part of the world. And so therefore that's what makes it different. And when you're looking for people, a certain amount of people from within the area is obviously highly desirable. So we look at we were looking at around a 60-40 percentage for people within, because it's a Birmingham-based event for ours, within that local area. I think we've probably maybe slid a little bit further back to maybe around 50-50. But it's very important to have speakers who have done stuff within the local community, for whatever reason that aligns with the theme. Does that Explain
Yeah,
it.
I think people don't realise that. People just think, oh, I'm going to find my local TEDx stage and apply. But actually, if you're not only active in that community, so that the panelists and the curators actually go, oh, I know that person, or they're a teacher at my school, or they're a blah, 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 right? You're known in the community. That's really important, to be of value in your community first. That will help your application process. Yeah. And I know we're going to talk about application processes, but just not to lose the credibility for those that are on the fence going, okay, I know the difference. Maybe I'm not at TED stage yet, but I might definitely be at TEDx stage. Yeah. What I've seen, people use the stage as a credibility, and please add to this, Helen, is that if you're a speaker, 100% have a clip of you speaking on TED with TEDx in the background, right? In your show reel. Because 100%. It instantly gives the speaker the credibility that actually someone else has vetted you. You've gone through the process of honing that talk and really understanding your topic. And obviously you've had some training on there. So it shows credibility from a booker's point of view, confidence, but also the virality of people watching TEDx talks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can't remember the amount of people are subscribed now to the TEDx YouTube channel. It's millions and millions and millions and millions of people, and it's going up every time. If you think that once you've done your talk, that automatically gets uploaded to that channel. So you are automatically now on a virtual stage with so many people looking at that talk. Even if you don't do anything with your talk, it still has the ability to be watched by thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Of course, there are loads of ways you can leverage that, but and also the other thing about credibility is that you're talking about the thing that you are most passionate about and is in your area of expertise. It's an idea worth spreading. So that what gives you automatic credibility that you are the expert in your subject matter.
And I think there is also something about that borrowed credibility of, you are on a TED stage, whether it's a TEDx or whether it's the TED Global stage, that name in and of itself is a stamp of approval in some way. It's a thing that says, I have jumped through hoops because I care about, passionate about the thing that I'm actually talking about. So, it is absolutely amazing. Judith is just saying that her friend's TEDx is up to 800,000 views, which is amazing, which is really great.
Helena, you manage Julian. What's his at now?
So Julian Treasure has actually got So Julian. So I've worked with Julian quite a bit, and he is. We were looking at it. I think it's 1.2 million views.
I love his talk.
His talk is amazing. I'll go and dig it out, and I'll actually put Julian's talk in here, just because it's so good and it's actually relevant. How to speak so people listen is what it's called, and
I put him in my training.
Oh my God, that's so good. So I have sat in his living room where he rehearsed this 47 times. So he actually got a red spot. So I'm going to say this to everybody. So he actually went and bought from IKEA, and you can, I think, still get the red spots from IKEA. It really is, because you want to be anchoring yourself into, this is where I am.
Wait. Some people might not have any idea what you're talking about.
Backtrack. I'm normally the backtrack girl. Okay, so the thing is that you have a little red circle to stand on to do your talk. Now, some people do wander up and down and etc. But essentially, if you can limit yourself to the red circle, so you can get a little round carpet that is red, that anchors you into I am on my TED stage, that actively kind of embodies it. And I know as a speaker trainer, you're going to be endorsing this left, right, and centre.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's just amazing. But he actually rehearsed this 47 times. His daughter Alice was sat there. She could actually do it verbatim as well. Because the whole thing is you want to get it in your bones to the extent where when you actually get out there and you deliver it, because this is your one chance to do your 18 minutes of, this is the passion that I actively have. I mean, he's actually gone on to do another 4, but he's spectacular. So I will go and dig that out whilst you talk some more, because this isn't my interview.
And again, for people that are not aware of TED that much, so the TED Talks are limited by time. Do you want to talk about how that works, and do people get cut off? Tell us more about that. I know it's off topic, and I think it's good.
So obviously in the 24 hours that I had to prepare, The only way that I could do it was exactly how you described. I actually did draw a circle on the ground because I knew that the cameras as well, that you couldn't actually go outside of that circle. And it is incredibly good for rooting you and not pacing like a caged animal, which is what a lot of speakers do subconsciously. I literally just spoke it out loud. I didn't write it down at all, over and over again. Now, the timings of TEDx talks, they range now from around, it could like as little as 8 minutes to a max of 18. Usually a 15 minutes is like the sweet spot in terms of a general talk. We are going with that for most of our talks. Some are slightly shorter depending on what type of talk it is. If it might be more performance based or creative based, it might be a little bit shorter. But that's 15 minutes is usually the time. The TED talks can be a little bit longer.
And do you find that the majority of people just do it just talking? Do you find some people use some slides? I know it's definitely not a death by PowerPoint scenario, but what do you see that works the best?
Because obviously we know that the different types of talk have different levels of interaction and different purposes. A TED talk doesn't really have two-way interaction because of the length and because of the type of talk that it is. And so having visuals, I do feel is really great. Having very specific visuals that anchor your particular points to what you want to embed in particular is very good. Having media of some type, if you have video, you have sound, that also works really well. Obviously, if it's congruent with what you want to talk about. But certainly not the bullet points on a slide type of thing, just big visuals, big bold visuals that really anchor in what you want to talk about specifically.
And you've just reminded me, I remember watching this because, TED is very much story related, which I know is your sweet spot, Helen, right? And that really does come into your story because that's the lens. And I was watching this TED, I don't know if it's a TED or a TEDx, of this lady who had disabilities, and she showed how pictures of her in public scenarios where actually she was too small to reach wash hand basins. She was too small to reach door handles. And she had all these pictures. And you're like, I've never thought that the hand dryer is so high up that she couldn't even. So having those just picture illustrations as she was doing her talk just was like, oh, shit. Right.
And interestingly, so if you watch the talk from Julian, you'll see that that's exactly what he does. He, big, bold visuals are just, they say every picture tells 1,000 words. Right.
Absolutely.
So, choose carefully is also the part of this. Right.
Yes, absolutely. This goes for any type of talk, any type of training you're doing, virtual training, presentation. It's the same thing in terms of slides. Less is more, but make more with less.
Yes.
Love it.
Nice.
I know we've got loads more questions, so let me just get to the bit which is actually, I know Judith was saying, oh God, I wish I'd spoken to you earlier because she sent her application off. But tell us a little bit about people that think, okay, I know Hayley's going, are there TEDx's in Wales? And there are TEDx's practically everywhere. So just just put it in Google and find your local stage and contact your curator in there. But when people are doing...
Sorry, I'm just going to interject once. So it might actually be that your local one at the moment isn't doing something that actually is topic specific. So listening to Helen, it might actually be that there's a theme somewhere else in the country that is actually going that you would be with your expertise and credibility also available for. Sorry,
Kelly. Might be outside. No. And we know that some TEDs are going ahead with virtual now, and some are just holding off because they want to do it physically. So you just have to look in the area. And Melica's saying that gives her hope.
We
love that. So just tell us a little bit, Helen, from a curator with your curator hat on. I know that when I've been speaking to some curators, they're getting like 400 applications and things like that. What cuts the mustard for you in an application? Give us some tips for these people.
Out?
So without a doubt, having a video or a show reel, or even a video of you talking to the camera, explaining what your talk would be about, I go to the video section straight away because I want to see people, and not because I want to see the skill they have in presenting, because that doesn't necessarily matter. It's how they're talking about their subject. It's how they're coming across. It's just being able to see them and get a feel for them. So like 100% include video in your application. Like that's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Also, if there is every TEDx event is very, very different. Okay, so you'll find that some have a very stringent process, which is step by step by step, which is ours because the head of that's organizing it all is very into project management, and he's very analytical, and so we have a process for everything. And actually I really appreciated that, because I'm more kind of like, up here. So
gotta love a structure, Helen, gotta love a structure.
I love structure, but I guess I'm not as stringent as he was, but it's been very, very good. Some other events, there isn't a clear format for application, and so get to know the events, and it does take a bit of research. It isn't very clear, and I think it's quite deliberate that TEDx, the application processes for TEDx events aren't clear. My best advice is to go on TEDx.com, look at the events that are on the map. You can zoom in and you can see what's going on. Once you've found that one, do a Google search and see what websites, what social media pages, and anything else are coming up. And then you can start to find out what's going on, what's the application process. Because there's kind of like 4 different ways that you can apply for TEDx, depending on how they set it up. With Brighton, I call it the backdoor method, because that is if there's no clear process for application, you shouldn't let it deter you. I sure as hell didn't. I was like a dog with a bone. I literally found all of the people that were organizing it. I made friends with them on LinkedIn. I saw who had connections with them on LinkedIn. I made friends with them on Facebook, and I messaged them all, and I didn't give up. And then I asked people that had connections with them to introduce me, and that was how I got the curator's email address. It wasn't as simple as the curator's email address being on a website and me emailing them. You've got to
work for it. You've got to work for it.
And it encourages the connections and the community, which is what TEDx is so important about. It's very much, if you're known in the community or you've been referred in, they're much more likely to look at you because somebody goes, oh, I know that person, or I've seen an article on that, or whatever it might be, which is why being an active person in your community really helps with the TEDx theme.
It really does, because there are lots of applicants. We were inundated through our application process, and it was really, really tricky. It was so hard to whittle it down. It was so hard. I found it incredibly difficult because there were so many amazing ideas, which was a fantastic thing.
And just to give people some hope, you don't have to be a speaker or a professional speaker to then say, oh, I need to do that first before I apply for a TEDx stage. You don't look at people like that. It's very much about their idea and their story rather than their speaking ability.
Yeah. And I think one of the ways to give yourself that hope is something that I certainly did when I discovered what TED was. I did a TED a day for half a year. So really I literally, and it begins to give you that whole kind of the normalcy of, there are some really slick professionals, and then there are some people that are heartfeltly, is that a word? Telling their stories, sort of in that way. And I think that's actually a really great diet, especially at the moment. Like, seriously, everyone, just do a TED a day anyway right now is a really good thing.
We've all probably got them. So people watching this now and on the replay, put your favourite in the comments, and people can actually see the ones that people love the most. I know that you've put Julian's in. Thanks, Helena. So definitely.
Yeah. So that really works. So it would be remiss of us to have you here, because I know you are an amazing speaker trainer as well, right? So we've talked a lot about the TED kind of element of it, but actually we're still talking about talking and speaking. So what do you, wearing your speaker trainer hat, what do you experience as the kind of common areas that most speakers need to improve on in terms of how they come across even better?
Yeah. So I think the main thing, obviously, if I can really generalize, is there's so much gold in their heads in terms of, an idea perhaps, or their experience or the story, but taking that out and articulating that in a succinct, impactful way is the thing that they need help with and support with. They're just not sure how to articulate the gold inside their head in a way that's going to make sense, have an impact, and inspire in 15 minutes. So the first thing I always bang on about is really getting crystal clear on what the core message of your talk is. It will be aligned with the idea worth spreading, but the core message is something you can define in a short sentence that is a statement that people are going to know, think, feel, or do differently as a result of sitting and listening to your talk. Beautiful. And once you get clear on that, it's like the backbone. It's like the backbone of your talk, and everything else can fall into place around that. And that's when you can start to put structure to it. But again, like with slides, less is more. We try to cram in so much experience, so much data, so much expertise, when actually we've got to strip it all back and keep it nice and simple so that people remember it and they do something with it.
It's the whole kind of minus not plus.
Exactly.
Like really truly.
And I think the ones that really, yes, they've got ideas that shake the world, but what underpins, once you've got that key message you were saying, Helen, what underpins that is how you tell the story around the idea, isn't it? Because everyone loves to be told a story. It's like Jack and Ori, I sit down with my hot chocolate and blah, blah, blah. And it opens you up. Your mind becomes much more open to receiving information when it's in a story form rather than a lecture form. But people are interested in people's lives. And when you understand why they're so passionate about that thing, as well as the thing that they've come up with, that's what gives it connection. That's what gives it depth. And I know that, you know, one of the things with you is that, you know, you do train people very much on storytelling, as well as the presentation skills, as well as the stage skills. So, and I've just put a link to your course in there as well, with people that want to go on that journey with you. Tell them a little bit about that, what they might get from that course. Tell us what that contains.
So it contains the key things that are needed in order to really formulate your idea worth spreading. So really get super clear on what that society level message is. Really define, before you've gone anywhere near a structure or, you know, the details of how you're going to deliver it, the core message of the talk, how that's actually really going to shift people. And then you move more into, okay, so I cover like 3 basic structures for a TED talk, which are, you know, story structures, which I can just give you here right now. So it's either the hero, which is the most famous storytelling structure of all time, which is based on someone's own journey. You've got the adventurer, who hasn't necessarily had a tragedy or a challenge, but have been inspired to go on a quest, have discovered things and now come back and here is what it is. Or the alchemist, which is a mishmash, a hodgepodge of data and research and thinking that's being presented. So those are kind of the main 3 types of structures. So you go into creating that, and then it's all about presence. And then the main thing is actually landing the gig. So I go through in detail the 4 different ways that you can actually do that.
Which is what Hayley's saying. She's probably more confident on the speaking than the applying, right? So
exactly. It's like, you know, and it is, it's, you know, you talking about confidence and tapping into confidence. It's exactly that. You know, we've actually all got the resource of that inside us. It's just a little bit more information actually then allows us to go, hang on a minute, I can do this. I have got this, right?
That's exactly.
And relating back to Menika's point, she was encouraged to apply in 2019, but she gave in to imposter syndrome, right? So, and we know how amazing your story is, Menika, from so many factors that, you know, that's the thing, is that when you get confidence, and sometimes you do need an external person like yourself, Helen, to go, you know, I say yes or no to who comes on the stage, and I would say yes to you if you applied in my area. But so I think having the connection of someone like you that gives them the insight into the TED world, it makes it a lot more doable, that they think, oh, I don't need to be a professional speaker. Oh, I have got a good story. Oh, someone else believes in me. And that's why we love having you in our world.
Thank you. Yeah, confidence comes from awareness, you know?
Totally. And
watch Helen's talk,
yeah, and you know, sort of, it's interesting because I think the very first talk I ever did, and I totally and utterly, it wasn't a TED talk at all, you know, sort of like, but it was I've just become a coach and I'm going out in the world, because of course we can apply all of the principles that we've talked about here to the speaking that the speakers, authors and coaches do, right? And so I remember the very first talk I ever gave, and we're talking, you know, wearing my new coach hat and like in 2010, maybe something along those lines, and it was called Confidence Happens in Context. because it's exactly that, right? And it just has this whole piece around, actually, you just haven't done a TED talk before. So if you start to think about it like that, it's just a new context. You know how to speak. You can always be honing, and we're always going to encourage that, right?
Always. That never stops. Never. There's always new things to learn, ways to improve. I still haven't got rid of my habit. I don't think I ever will. It's a bane, but I'm always going to be working on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. So I'm going to put a link in as well, just to your website, because I know that you're a busy lady, and I know that you are across LinkedIn and Facebook, and people can connect with all of your social links there and also see all of the stuff that you do, all the good work that you do. But and I know you're in the Connection Hub, which I put a link to at the top as well, so people can be on there, and you're in our directory and all the places, right? But where do you like to hang out when you do have some time, which is ridiculously probably never? How do you prefer to connect with people? Is it via email? Is it on Facebook? Is it where is it?
I guess I hang out most on Instagram, and I'm enjoying hanging there quite a bit at the moment.
Nice.
Connecting with people on there. I am active on Facebook and LinkedIn, but Instagram's the main place at the moment. But you can email me. You can I really don't mind whatever people would prefer to do to have a chat, to ask a question.
Really great,
really cool.
And I know you've been really generous, and you've also given our viewers a TEDx checklist, which I've also put a link to in the comments. So that's another thing, again, when people are actually just going, am I ready yet? Then you can just make sure how far down the journey you are and download that for free from Helen. So we really appreciate all the resources, insights, tips, experience that you're throwing at all of our members.
You are just one of our kind of people, sort of like really speakers, authors and coaches who change the world and demonstrate just by adding value and more value. That's just, you are a walking, talking epitome of that.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you, ladies.
So we know that a lot of people watch on the replay, especially our worldwide viewers. So if you have got questions for Helen, don't hold back, put them in the comments, tag us, tag her. We'll get back to you. I know a lot of people watch this even years down the line. So I'm sure you'll be doing much more in the world, and hopefully the gig happens this year. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we get this COVID thing sorted and live events can happen again, right?
For sure.
Cannot wait for that to happen.
I know, right? It is amazing. So on that note, we will bid you all goodbye, and we will catch you next Tuesday with another amazing something or other for you, which of course we'll keep under wraps until the day before.
Have a great week.
Thank you so much.